Alright everybody, here we are looking at the XP Trike from Electric. This has been a discussion about the bearings, and that's what I'm going to try and get a good look at today, how all this works, and quite possibly a solution that makes it easier for everybody. These rear ends that are on these bikes, there's 6 bolts on one side and 6 bolts on the other that hold this rear end in place. This rear end has been around for years. Actually, I think Schwinn started this back in the 80s. If you go to Trike parts, you'll see a lot of this. A lot of guys build lowrider bikes out of these. Just go back and look at the history of tricycles, adult tricycles, and you'll see these. The quality of the build is excellent. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking this apart and get a look at what I don't have a bearing problem right now, so I don't want to tear it completely down. A good way to tell is reach your hand in there and pull up and down while you have it up on stands. And I highly suggest that you do use a little foam on something that you don't damage the wires, the cables that are going into the bike. You'll see that in my other videos where I have it up on these same jack stands. But for right now, I'm going to try and take this down and get a look inside here to see what we have. Alright, let's go ahead and take the wheel off. And I've done this many times, changing the tires out. And you can take the wheel off with the fenders on this brand Trike. I've done it. I've already loosened this a little bit, I think. Yeah, earlier. I think I showed in my other videos to where they could have taken these wheels off and left them in the boxes and put them on the top of this basket. But then I think they wanted a fully assembled bike to come out. Second of all, it would have said some assembly needed. And my God, that would have saved them a lot of trouble. But there it is again, it might have been a liability for, see, there's Loctite on here. And there's a reason why that Loctite's on there, so that the bolt stays in. And I would think that if they allowed you to do it and the wheel fell off and you cracked your noggin, that there might be a lot of lawsuits. So that's quite possibly why they did that. But by leaving these back wheels off. And I can't imagine, I've seen videos of people talking about their bearings damaged right out of the box, or even 100 miles later. So, I mean, they drop these Trikes. We've seen that. They drop them pretty good there. Here's your keyway. Let's get that out. What I want to do is I want to see, I think this piece right here comes off. This piece holds this axle from going in. This bike I normally keep over at my daughter's house. I've brought it over here to my garage. And yes, it's 109 heat index over here right now. But I'm gonna try and see what's going on here. See, that's the limited slip. This is one axle and the other side is another axle. They actually are independent. It's not a straight through axle because of the limited slip rear end. There we go. It's coming. That's as I thought it hit the ground. Wow, never realized that. What I'm thinking, from what I've seen on other photos of how these rear ends are put together, when I first bought this bike, I guess it's a year and 3 or 4 months ago, I'm on Facebook and there was Electric Trike Riders Club on there, and it was just for this bike. I posted some videos. We all chat back and forth about the problems we've had to endure. There's 2 Carter keys, there's 2 Allen wrenches here, 2 of them, one there and one there, and bent wheels, noises coming from the rear end. And then we got into the bearing problem. There was one guy on there, I don't remember his name, but I think he had a bearing problem right off the bat. Let's see, you know they've got Loctite on all this, so do that one and then this one. Wow, that one's loose. We know they've been dropping the bikes out of the delivery trucks. We know that. We all have videos of it even. I do. All right, there. Remember that piece there has to go in. There's a ridge on this and the other side's clean. It's smooth. These are enclosed bearings. They're not open ball bearing. I would suspect that there's 4 of them on this bike. There's one in here on this side, and then there's one on the other side and one on the outer side. What I'm thinking here is that if there are 4 bearings, the ones that are taking the biggest punishment are these that are in this house right here. Okay, let's see something. Yeah, there's no slip there unless I take that other piece apart. The discussion about the bearing and who to fix it, that's another problem. Bike shops don't deal with enclosed bearings like this. 98% of the time they deal with the bearings that have open balls on them with a little like race that fits the bearings in, like in the front wheel, and then on the steering column there's a couple of bearings in each part of that. The only other bearings that are on this bike are in the steering column, where you take it apart down here at the bottom and one at the top probably, and then the front wheels, they have a couple of bearings that go on the inside of there. And then there's a couple of bearings here and on the other side here. That's the only bearings bike shops deal with. Let's see what the end, is that 1.5 inches? Yeah, it says 1.5 inches. I brought my hole saws out, and of course I have every one of them except 1.5 inches. And you guys are probably wondering, where is he going with this? I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it. I've come this far. Let's see if we can get this loose. Yeah. Yeah, see, that slips back and forth. You can see that part I loosened up. Go back and forth. See, it was all the way over here. I'm thinking that that's holding this axle in. I'm just going to loosen it enough and slide it back to see if this axle will come out. Really, in all reality, that axle should be tight on those bearings. Have to find a way to yank this off. I don't even want to do that. Let's see if it moves a little bit. Yeah. It's coming off. That's a lot of pulling. See, it's coming off. You can see where it's moving out. Look at that. See, that's real smoothed out. There's no groove there. You can see where that inner bearing's been sitting on here. There's no groove. Now, do I want to keep banging this out? You're probably going, yeah, do it. I don't know. I'm beating this up. Okay, I'll mess with it. Gotten a little bit easier now that it's off that other inner bearing that it's holding on to. Uh-oh. And there goes the clamp. You can see where it sits on there. I'll have to remember that. Wow, you can see the whole bearing wiggling up and down. I hope this is focused. Up and down. The whole bearing is moving up and down, but trying to go lateral, it doesn't move at all. There's a lot of wear right there. It's already starting to bend this housing. There's where the other bearing's rubbing. Right there. There's your spline. I'll have to clean that out before I put it back. I don't think anybody else has shown this yet. But here's the axle for this left side, and I'm sure the other one's the same way. Alright, now so far this has not been really hard to do. Let's see something a minute. Yeah, see, it's, oh wow, yeah, you could pull this off. Yeah, the other side, you can hear it moving. Do the same thing to that other axle, this will fall out. Anyway, I can't find my puller. I believe somebody borrowed it years ago. I curved in on them to grab onto something, and then a rod in the middle that you turn in, and it pulls the thing off. What you would do is take one of the arms off, and there's a bolt hole at the other end to change it around. You would buy a U-bolt with a threaded end and put a rod in it, and find something to slip on it really heavy, and just put that one tooth in here. You can see that it doesn't take much to get something in there, and they're made with that curve to should be able to find one of those little pullers that would go in, one tooth would go in here. Otherwise, I don't know, you can't get 3 teeth in here unless they make a puller that small. And then what is the rod gonna turn on? And I can spin this and feel it's real gritty. It's like real, you can feel sand in there. Yeah, let me get it started. Just tap on it real lightly. Now what I'm gonna do, instead of beating on the bolt itself, make sure that bolt's in there real good. Yeah, get it threaded really well. Man, I don't like that. Look at that. There's your problem. It's gonna do that when you ride it. It's going to go up like the bearing's loose in there. I don't think these shafts are bending. It's the bearing. Look at the bearing moving around. Look at that. Watch the bearing. And it doesn't go the other way. So that's from riding and dropping it on the ground. This goes up. When I take this bike out to ride it, that's what the bearing's going to do. The wheel's going to go up. It's going to put pressure on that middle piece in there. Of course, the other bearing will hold it in place, but that right there okay, I just caught myself. That bearing in there will hold it from doing this. But there it is again. How'd that slot get in there? And not the other way. Some wear and hitting the ground. Alright, use a block of wood, put that back in. Hopefully, it lines up with that other bearing and goes through without pushing the other bearing out. That's where we're going to have to be a little careful here. Tap, tap. Okay, it's still moving. Oh, there. There, it's over there now. I'll move this around so that so that it gets in that groove where the splines are. Oh boy. I'm going to move that around as I tap on this to make sure it gets in that groove where the splines are. There it goes. Well, kind of. Yeah, there it goes. Hopefully that bearing in there is not popping out. Nope, it's not. I'll have to take that other piece apart, but that's okay. And we're gonna tap it to where, uh-oh, things just got tight. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Oh boy. I hope something didn't slide out inside there. It looked like it only went one way. Now we'll take it back out. Okay, and we'll move this around a little bit. Okay, All right. There it goes. Come on, go all the way. Well, it's hitting something. Oh boy, now what did I do? You can hear the sound change. Oh boy. What did I do? Wonder if there's something in there. That moved. Oh, I just felt that go. Wow, that was weird. There it goes. There it goes. And I'm going to tap till I don't see that anymore. That rub spot. Or maybe it'll stop on its own. There, I just felt it hit. And I'm going to leave it there. And I guess the rest of it's just putting this back together. There, I didn't damage that. I did damage this piece, but I have another one. But that's okay, really. It'll still work. It's just a little rough. Okay, so that's that part. But wow. Okay. That's what it is. Problems with this bearing. And they were sending the whole bike back because of that. I did other videos on this that I don't want to throw away bicycle because, I mean, I love the bike. The bike has been awesome and it's doing what I want. The only other things that'll probably wear out are the chains. That's easy. Now, how long are we going to get out of these motors? I don't know. And the batteries, that's another subject. I guess that comes down to how much care you take care of it and how long they're going to last. You know, keeping it charged right, not abusing it, leaving it out in the garage or heat or cold. That's what it'll come down with. The bearings inside, other parts of the bicycle, like the front wheels, that would be my second most looked at because of my weight and what we put down on the front ends of these bikes. Like I said, I think this bike was mainly put together for senior citizens to get out and get some exercise and ride. And I'm not saying every senior citizen's overweight, but I'm overweight. So what's going to happen is when this goes out and you've had the bike for a year and a half, what's electric going to do? I don't know. I haven't spoke with, but like I say, I don't think a bicycle shop's going to fix this for you. A mechanic shop, an automotive shop's going to be more familiar with this than a bike shop. But now, what would be a better solution for this? You know, because once you start knocking this out of here, this is just a thin tube. And start pounding another one back in, because you'll have to tap it back in here. Now, how many times are these bearings going to go out? I don't know, but the bearing is probably already wearing out on this bike, because look at the size of this bearing and then look at the size of the bike and the size of me, and just think of how much is going on right here for that little bearing to carry. What would be good for them to do is to have this bike to where you could change the bearing out easily. That way, like on the viewer screen, 600-700 miles, it says replace bearing, or you know to write it down. And before it gets to the point to where it starts breaking apart, because that's what's going to happen, is all this inside this rubber thing is going to start breaking apart. It's going to heat up, and then it's going to start jarring up and down and start crumbling inside there the longer you ride, which is going to vibrate this shaft and damage. So what I'm going to try and do is come up with a solution and run it. You can change the bearing yourself, or a bike shop can. It'll be easier to do than this, because you're definitely going to have a puller of some sort. I can get these bearings out without a puller. I can take all this middle stuff out of here and come from the other side with a long piece of iron, a long piece of tubing, and knock it out. Go from the bottom, hit the top over here. You know, of course you might have to, you know, go through the hole that's already here. I could get it out, but do I want to go through that all the time? Or do I want to take this to a mechanic shop? I would say they'd want to do both bearings to warranty it on both sides. I don't know what you're thinking, but how much they get an hour? You're probably looking at a $400 bill or more. I would seriously think no. If anyone would do it cheaper than that, that would be great, but I don't think that's going to happen, because they don't do this on a regular basis. This is not something that just they do all the time. You take it in a bike shop and they're going to go, oh my God, I've never seen that before. So what I'm thinking is have it to where you don't have this inside here. It'll be mounted mounted outside, and it'll be in a two-piece block, an alloy block, to where you take that block apart, the bearing falls out, you put a new one in and bolt it back on. So what I went and did is I had a bunch of hole saws here, but this is 1.5 inches. I had to go buy a hole saw cutter. I'm going to show you what I think should be done to make this a lot easier for people to change out. This setup has been around for years, and they just threw all this together on here. And you can buy these off of eBay and other bike stores. You can buy this whole rear end. Now maybe that might be a thing to do in the future, is to put all your stuff back on this new rear end. But do you want to do that? You know, looking $200-300 or more. I think there's I don't remember exactly. I'll look it up. Hopefully I'll show you in pictures what this costs. And hopefully it has all this on it. I think I've seen some that do. I'm not sure. So, and let's see if I can come up with something that they could put on this tube instead of going through all that, to where you can replace this bearing. I'll be right back. That's one. This is what I've got. The bolts aren't long enough. This is what I'm doing. Let's take this apart. Yeah, what you can do is this piece here, you could countersink these to the back to where they're flush. I'm going to show you. And it doesn't have to be this ugly and gaudy. Hey, you could do it out of wood, yeah. No, this is just a template. But this is what I think they should do. This piece here, it could be trimmed up, and the ears could be cut right along. You know, you don't have to be there. The bolt could be over here, over there, in between. The bolt hole could be in between. I didn't measure all that. But this goes on there, 1.5 inch piece. Okay, and that gets TIG welded or MIG welded or however they're doing it. That gets, you know, even if you have to cut this housing back a little bit, that gets welded on there. And then what you have here, this is your bearing holder. This becomes not the tube anymore. This becomes your bearing holder. I have an old wheelbarrow bearing that I used for this. You saw me with the Dremel over there. And what you would do now, this could be all made out of a really nice alloy. I'll show you some pictures. What you're doing here is it's called C-clip eliminator. Years ago, General Motors made a 12-bolt rear end. The racers used to love them because you could get a posi traction rear end for them, and they were stronger. The Ford 9-inch rear ends weren't C-clipped eliminators. What it is the two axles would go into your universal, forget the name of it now, but there would be a piece in there that was your posi traction, and the axles would slip in there, and you would put this clip in there to hold the axle. Well, people wanted to use that, so they called it a C-clip eliminator, and they made these pieces that you cut off the first part of the housing, and then you bolt these pieces on there. I'll show you pictures, and what you do is you put the bearing inside that and then slip it on there, and it eliminates that C-clip, which how dangerous it was. Many rear ends, the axles would come out the tube if that C-clip fell off. So what I made is just a for instance. This is just sloppy, you know, it's all wiggling around and everything. This is how you could change the bearing all the time. Instead of messing with this tube, you would just put this on there. Of course, that bearing doesn't fit. I'll take that bearing out. This is the size of the bearing here, but it's just a for instance. And then you would put that bearing on there and put your, it'd be really nice material, put that on there, and then you would run your bolts either through the back or through here into whatever this piece is, and run it through and bolt that on there. And like I say, this stays on. And you cut your ears, same ears as this, to put your fenders on, and now you have a piece that you can repair the bearing yourself. It wouldn't take much for a person with an Allen wrench and the bolts on the back, you know, whatever, 6mm, 7mm bolt on the back. That's my idea with that. And boom, it would slip over the axle like that. If you'd have to do some real good engineering and make this out of an alloy. I'll show you pictures of that I have engineers to do. I was just thinking this is what boom, you're easy. You take it apart, change the bearing. Bearing comes right out of the housing. Otherwise, What are you going to do with this bike when the bearing goes bad? You're going to spend $600-700 to a mechanic to take those out and replace them when the bearing's probably $9 or less. We're getting all this from overseas now, and this could even, I'm surprised it's held up as long as it has. Somebody, an idea to change this up, because all these bikes that are sold with this rear end, I'll say it again, are gonna have that bearing problem. These bearings are gonna go bad, especially on what roads you're driving on. Rocks, pothills, transitions that are just bumping the crap out of it. Plus you've already got a ton of weight on it already, and you're adding more weight onto it. How long will these hold out? I wanna be able to change them out. So anyway, I hope that's helped out a little bit. And hey, if you like the videos I'm doing, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell up on the right hand corner. That helps my channel out a lot, and it allows me to give me the confidence to keep going with the things that I'm doing. And I have other projects coming up, and I have a whole lot more I want to do with this trike in the future. I haven't gone fishing yet, which I plan to. It's been extremely hot and the tides are crazy, so we'll see. But I appreciate you guys watching, and leave some feedback on this. I'd love to see what your feedback is, and I'm sure the manufacturer would like to see some of the comments too. So thanks again. Remember, subscribe. If you're not signed in, sign in to YouTube. That way it allows you to subscribe to my channel and other channels. That would help out a lot of people who work on these channels. See you later.